Okay, hello and welcome. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in to listen to Adam and I talk about putting food into our bellies. It's worthwhile, maybe for some of the more so for some of the St Andrews people, for Adam to introduce himself. Adam, who the heck are you, and what do you do?
Sure. I'm Adam. I train my clients as a personal trainer out of Functional Fitness Dundee, and occasionally pop through to St Andrews, primarily to train, to be honest. But occasionally I'll dip through for whatever reason I'm required. I, as well as train my client base, I offer services in nutrition, obviously via 40 Days of Change, which some of you might have heard of, or by doing the Functional Fitness Challenge. As well as that, I also do one-to-one nutritional coaching aside from. I guess that probably sums me up basically, but it probably leads to your next question, which is going to be about the nutritional side of things, right?
Sure thing. First up, let's talk 40 Doc. So 40 Doc was kind of the first nutritional thing that you did kind of gym wide since you joined us. Wait, when did you join Adam? What, early 2018?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've been with us a little while now. So yeah, let's talk through 40 Doc. So who would benefit and sort of why they would benefit. Just fly solo here and tell us.
So easiest way to tell a story is probably to tell you why I started 40 Days of Change. So the main reason is because I was sick of a lot of misinformation in the industry of nutrition. Aside from the fitness industry, which is also varying, the nutritional industry is an area where a lot of people have opinions about nutrition, in essence, whatever nutrition may be to that person. So the main area behind starting 40 Days of Change was to give people a very, very straightforward overview of what nutrition is, how you can use and adapt your nutrition in order to achieve whatever it is that you set to achieve. So I decided to create a framework to teach and educate people on nutrition, how to go about applying it to achieve your goals, and just understand it a little bit better to cut through a lot of the nonsense that might be out there. In terms of who might benefit, generally everybody. For the most part, it's perceived as something that a lot of people would use to lose weight, which is obviously a main area for many people, but also I've helped people, gain weight. I've helped people recomp body shapes, whatever it may be goal-wise. If you just feel like generally you're lacking a little bit in performance in the gym, setting aside a little bit more time for your nutrition could be the main key to achieving everything you set out to achieve. So 40 Doc as a broad overview to begin with was to cut through some shit and to give people the education on nutrition, bullshit aside.
Nice. Okay, Adam, move on then. So talk about your kind of one-to-one nutrition as well. Go into that in a little bit more depth.
So yeah, the one-to-one nutrition is very guided. It's very hands-on. It's almost to the point where you have me holding your hand, setting you weekly objectives to track down whatever it is that we find is a trouble in your dietary intake. For the most part, everybody understands that they need to eat food. For the most part, everybody understands that they need to eat a certain amount of food. But it could be just slight habitual problems, slight problems with routine, with preparation, with generally not understanding what they should and shouldn't be eating. And then that doesn't even begin to understand some of the maybe dietary requirements that they might have that they've been newly diagnosed with that they're not quite sure of how to challenge on their own yet because it's kind of new to them, or there's many issues there. So one-to-one's a little bit more specific to the individual. It's a lot more hands-on, and it definitely returns results.
Nice. And then let's just touch very, very briefly on the Functional Fitness Challenge. Now we've only done one of these so far.
Yeah.
But maybe for those who joined a little bit after, or maybe just missed it because of the time of year, just touch on that very, very briefly.
So the Functional Fitness Challenge was was created to kind of give us something to use pre sort of summer, which unfortunately not many of us are going to get to enjoy. But I think we initially created it to give people the opportunity to take part in a challenge, which was going to take care of a couple of things that maybe the seminar delivery of 40 Days of Change didn't, which would have been the accountability weekly and a couple other snags that we found. And it meant that we could run a weight loss challenge with all the things that were correct, that aren't usually correct with weight loss challenges. So typically when you enter into a weight loss challenge, you'll find that you're given like a pamphlet and you're sent off to kind of get on with it. Whereas we wanted to create a service that was ethically correct, but then continually backed by continuing moving science. But not only that, still with the same fundamentals that 40 Doc was kind of built and runs on.
Cool, nice. Is there a date set for the next challenge? Sorry. Obviously, I think we're maybe going to be doing one now, but is there one? There is one another one scheduled in for this calendar year.
So there was due to be one starting 2 weeks ago, but with all the uncertainty, we found it was probably easiest to set it aside for the time being. Graham and I will come to an agreement as to when that would be best to run again. It's continually kind of a moving ball, I suppose. We're not quite in the know as to when things are going to be back to some form of normality. But the good thing is with a challenge like this, we could run it quite easily ad hoc online. It wouldn't be too difficult to run, just like this. Yeah,
that's cool. Okay, let's dive into some more kind of nutrition-y stuff, and just wanted to kind of cover on a kind of FAQ kind of front. So things that like the common repeated questions that Adam, you probably get. So the first one, macros. Why are people driven by macros? And how does that compare to like calorie counting, and talk through, like, in your opinion, like what's more important, like if one is better than the other, like just dive into that little realm.
So like in essence, I think macro counting came from a different realm of fitness, they who won't be mentioned. But I think in essence, people need to understand initially is calorie counting isn't a new thing. It's been around for forever. Just generally, we require energy as human beings, and we, in order to manipulate that, need to count it. Quite simply put, and then to do that, we could be more finicky, and we can count macronutrients, which are the makeup of our calorie intake. To be very, very data specific, yeah, counting macronutrients could be great, but then there are a lot of cons to that as well. It doesn't allow for a very relaxed dietary intake. It doesn't allow for, a very relaxed lifestyle where you can go out and enjoy, social occasions with friends and things like that. But you're always bound by your macronutrient intake. So I think the key thing to understand is, yeah, in essence, calorie counting can return some very positive results. It isn't always necessary, but it can be of great benefit. And then if you want to be a little bit more specific with your intake, you would then move on to maybe counting macronutrients. But I mean, from all of my client base and the people that I work with, I think I've only had to tell one individual ever to count their macronutrients the finitest detail, because they were very detail oriented. So I think the key thing to understand is that calorie counting is quite important. Sure, it can be a really, really good way to be spot on with your results moving forwards. A quick way to ensure that you're fully encompassing everything you're doing. And then on top of that, yeah, you might want to consider some other variables, like protein intake could be quite important, especially for us just now when we're not getting to resistance training like we usually would. For maintenance of muscle, protein intake is very important. But then, I always allow my guys, and those of my guys who have worked with me in the past who are here know that we consider calories the most important. Then thereafter, protein intake is quite important. Then you should allow yourself some flexibility with your fat and your carbohydrate intake, because ultimately you don't achieve faster results by hitting a set range of carbohydrates day to day, but you do sustainably adhere to said diet if you have that flexibility with your carbs and your fats. The only things you would need to consider is if you're a female, your fat intake can be quite important for hormonal health. Otherwise, you can be quite flexible. So to quickly sum up the answer, because I know it was long-winded, calorie counting could be quite important if you want to be quite switched on with your data recording, to be pinpointing what you should and shouldn't be doing data wise. But macronutrient counting isn't essential. Even elite level athletes would be on that borderline of whether they should or shouldn't. So it's not necessary for the everyday exerciser and somebody who's just looking to take a bit more control with their nutrition.
That's cool. That was pretty in depth. That was good. So kind of leads nicely on to into the next one. Benefits and negatives of using apps such as MyFitnessPal to calorie count, and suggestions of alternative methods for counting your calories and keeping your calories in check.
Yeah, so there's tons of benefits and negatives, like all things. I think in my personal experience, there are more benefits, but there are certainly negatives. And over analytical enjoyment of calorie counting can be, a little bit dodgy. If you're spending your whole life logging through every last little individual variable that you've consumed, then it could become a problem long term. Certainly not short term. Sometimes it can be quite enjoyable. Sometimes it's a complete pain in the ass. It's definitely time consuming to begin with, but then once you get the hang of it, it's quite easy. But from a purely benefit standpoint, if we know exactly what's going in, we can manipulate that number quite easily to get our body to do what we want it to do, essentially. And that applies to 97% of us. So if you're sat there at home going, I've calorie counted in the past, it hasn't worked, I would probably urge that you probably haven't calorie counted correctly, or the number that you've used to calorie count just needed to be adjusted slightly. So a lot of the calorie calculators that you spit out at home, they work to give you a general starting point, but you need to understand how to manipulate that moving forwards in order to achieve your goal. Negatives, though, like I said, just getting a little bit too hung up on the apps can be a negative side of it, and then just being bound by it in the sense that if you've not got calories left and you've logged through blah blah blah, then you decide that to bin certain foods because you don't want to log it through. But I'd assume that the benefits outweigh the negatives for anybody who's looking to take control of their calories. Alternative methods are simple. You could just use pen and paper, really, really easy. You could use alternative apps, or alternatively, you don't necessarily need to calorie count at all. You could, in theory, count for a week and then just maintain the same sort of meal structure and portion sizes from there. Again, a set of food scales and you're 95% of the way there. Weighing out and ensuring that you're taking control of portion sizes is probably more important.
Just a thing to ask you on top of what you just said there. People who calorie count and then they're like, right, I'm not seeing the benefit. How long would you advise someone to stick with what you've necessarily given them before you think you need to make that adjustment? So it's maybe not quite going how you or they had hoped. How long do you make them stick with it before you make that adjustment?
Usually about 2 to 4 weeks, but I'd ask other questions before that. So generally I would ask, how has your activity changed? Has your eating habits changed? Has your sleeping habits, have they changed? Have you not logged through your information? It's commonly known that misreporting food logging is absolutely abundant in every single individual. We all do it. You'll sit there and go, yeah, I've logged through 2,000 calories, but yeah, that's fine. You've logged it, but what are you actually eating? There'll be some stuff there that you maybe not logged through, which is common. For the most part, I'd run that for 2 to 4 weeks. If you're not seeing change and you know that your activity's been there, you've hit X amount of steps per day that you'd plan to do, you've eaten what you've suggested you've eaten. Depending on what your goal is, weight loss, weight gain, you might need to just adjust the numbers ever so slightly to move yourself in the right direction. But for the most part, yeah, 2 to 4 weeks is generally a good period of time to allow things to mature before you need to make any sort of changes.
That's cool. Lindy, I've got your question. I'm going to wait until the end, and then I'll ask Adam at the end. Okay. So if anyone's got any other questions, just feel free to type them in there as we go, and we'll wrap back around and grab them at the end. Okay. Next one, Adam. We spoke at the very beginning about calories first, protein secondary. So, common thing, I don't want to bulk up. Protein's going to make me bulk up. Just quam that statement for me.
Yeah, so, well, in essence, bulking up, I suppose, is what, either gaining muscle or just gaining weight, because they're two different things. So, like, to squash the question, you'll gain weight because you've overconsumed food. Nobody got far too big muscles consuming too much protein. They got far too big muscles by using probably like anabolic steroids, but that's another discussion. You're not gonna, like your muscles aren't going to over explode because of an excess uptake of protein. And also, to touch on protein intake in high amounts, you're not going to get kidney failure because you've consumed a high amount of protein either. You need to be absolutely hammering it. Like, don't even think there are many studies out there that would suggest there is a definitive number, but it's probably an inconsumable amount of protein for you to contract some form of kidney failure. Contrary to what many folk that you speak to will suggest. So essentially, an adequate intake of protein is probably going to be, for most of us who exercise, somewhere upwards of maybe 1.4 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. For those of you who are sat at home trying to work that out real quick, it's probably going to be somewhere between, depending on who you are and how much you weigh, about 120 to 220 grams a day, which may sound like a lot to you straight out of the gate, but it definitely isn't. It's not as hard as it would seem to achieve. It just takes a little bit longer to achieve than you may think. But generally, a high intake of protein is going to ensure that you maintain muscle mass, if not develop further muscle mass, depending on where the severity of your energy balance is. Hopefully that.
Yeah, no, that did the job, I think. Again, kind of reverting back to like why you brought like 40 or wanted to do 40 doc. Why are there such differing opinions and views on dieting, both in nutrition and in fitness? And then go into and divulge like how do you filter through like the bullshit, like to find actual facts, because there is so much like BS out there. Like how do you filter through all of that?
I'm going to answer the last part of that question first. So, like, the easiest way to do this is to get educated, to understand, have the knowledge, understand what's right and wrong. If you go out there and educate yourself on nutrition, chances are you'll hear what your pal's mate said and go, well, that's shite, because chances are it is. Get educated, understand nutrition a little bit more, and don't overthink it too much. I think, like a good amount of the cases that I come across in terms of nutrition tend to be people overthinking nutrition too much, trying to hit specific macro numbers every day for the remainder of their lives to achieve X, trying to be over stringent. Generally, if you're good 80 to 90% of the time, and by good, I don't mean eating healthy foods all the time and all these things. If you're generally hitting an energy balance, which is going to benefit your goal, if you're eating an adequate protein, 4 or 5 times out of the week, if you're, having the odd beer or wine or whatever to enjoy yourself, if you're, having one takeaway every so often, you're not going to do any harm. But understanding what all that means in a broad spectrum of a dietary intake is the key thing, I suppose. But to cut through the bullshit, just get educated. It'll leave you in a position where you understand more than you could ever read. And why there are such different opinions and views, I suppose that's people. Like, you'll find that people just have different opinions on things. People just generally have different views, and that's okay. But that's where the buck ends, really, because people can have opinions and they can be wrong. Whereas, science, knowledge, that kind of, that trumps the opinion card 9 times out of 10. Because, like, my opinion on, whatever it may be could be my opinion, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily right. Everybody has opinions.
Does money and popularity come into a lot of it?
Yeah, popularity definitely. It depends where you look. Like, if you look on Instagram, chances are, like, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to believe like somebody who has their chebs out over somebody who is sat there and giving you information and then backing it by science. Stark difference between the two. Like, if I slap a picture up of somebody who's half naked, male or female, and I pop on, carbs are the enemy, you're going to go, fuck, he's probably right, because, he looks fine, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Whereas if it's just somebody sat in a chair going, here's some evidence to suggest blah, 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 that could be a definitive difference. So don't allow your mind to be skewed by somebody's opinion, because 9 times out of 10, it's probably wrong.
Nice. Pretty good answer. Right, I'm going to come on to some of these questions, Adam. Okay. What about sugar intake? How does that matter in the makeup of your intake?
Well, it comes under the umbrella of carbohydrate, so it's not overly important. One thing you've got to remember that, and I'm gonna cover it generally to begin with. Sugar under the umbrella of carbohydrates. As long as you're not over-consuming carbohydrates and over-consuming calories, you'll be absolutely fine. It probably needs a little bit more. I need more on that. But to be more specific, if you're consuming high amounts of sugar throughout the day, chances are your energy levels could be quite funky. You could be up and down, a little bit yo-yo-y. So I'd maybe look to control it a little bit more. Start by maybe recording your dietary intake and figure out what exactly it is that's doing it. That would be a good starting point. Look to eradicate it bit by bit.
Nice. And then next question came in together, and then alcohol. If the calories are counted for via your alcohol, does the alcohol slow down your weight loss, fat loss?
No. Definitely not. No. Was that James as he's drinking a beer? No. Energy balance is absolutely king. Control your energy balance. Simple as, your weight will do what you want it to do. There aren't too many people that are going to be affected by that statement. Like generally 95% of us, provided we control energy intake, will get to the weight that we want to be at. But the hard part is it's easy to sit here saying it, I'm going to eat X amount of calories day by day for X amount of days, and by that time I've gotten to X amount of weight. That's fine, but actually going out there and doing it is the difficult part, because otherwise I wouldn't have a job. Simply put though, an alcohol intake is fine. It's completely normal. Sometimes it's healthy. An overconsumption can be a problem, but you certainly won't have me telling you to stop it. You'll have me going, you should maybe reduce that. It's maybe having a negative effect on your intake, blah, blah, blah. But, you're an adult. If you want to reduce your intake, you reduce it. If you want to keep drinking, you keep drinking.
Perfect. Hope that covers that question for you, Lundy. Jill, are there any books, websites you recommend to start you educating yourself?
40 Doc.
Do 40 Doc. I can vouch that.
Like, I know it's a bit of a shameless plug, but like I could point you in the direction, but what are the bets that you don't read it? Whereas if you pay for 40 Doc, you run through the content, you have your one-to-ones with me, by the end of it, I guarantee you'll understand nutrition 10 times better.
There you go. There are a few in the group who have done it, Jill. So Adam, can you look through who's in this and point out who has done 40 Doc that Jill could maybe speak to?
Fiona's done it. Eleanor's done it. Who else have we got? Colin's done it. Hi, Colin.
Lucy's done it.
Yeah, Lucy's done it too. Yeah.
So there's lots of people, Jill, that you could refer to ask a question about what their experience was like, and go from there. So yeah. Adam, another, and in fairness, a very, very good question from Lindy here. Timing of eating around about a workout, before and after.
Okay, so timing as just in what? For
like when I'm going to train at 10 o'clock, when should I eat before, when should I eat after?
How about I work it backwards and tell you when not to eat? So generally, don't try and eat a big meal 1 or 2 hours before. A little snack is okay. In the hour leading to, probably not a great idea to eat anything at all. Might be a good idea to take on board some hydration. Some water would be good, some key hydration, depending on what you've done and what you're doing. if it's first thing in the morning for a 10 o'clock training session, I'd be saying, have breakfast maybe 7, 8 o'clock. And chances are you're not going to be hungry again before you train at 10. But if you are, maybe like a banana or half a banana, maybe an hour before for that carbohydrate uptake could be good. Or, an equivalent source of carbohydrate would be wise. Plenty of research out there to suggest a little bit of protein prior to a training session can be a benefit too. And then, was there a post-workout there too, or is it just pre?
Post as well.
Okay, I'll keep this general instead of making it really, really, long and specific. Yeah, some protein sort of a couple of hours after within that window would be okay, depending on when you first ate. A little bit more carbohydrates to replete glycogen storage, and you're good to go. So generally about an hour before, don't eat anything big, maybe small snacks, a couple hours before a meal. And then immediately after, if you're hungry, yeah, sure. Some people aren't. You could eat, but generally about an hour or two after is fine.
Chalky milk.
Chalky milk, yeah.
Chalky milk's where it's at. Lindy, your last one question there. I am going to ask Adam at the end. Okay, so we will talk about that.
Is it fucking BCAs or something? Is it?
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. Question coming in. Does 40 cover weight gain?
Yes.
There you go. Answered. Okay.
Yeah, it's generally it's not specific to weight loss. Typically, you'll find that the majority of people singing the praise of it is about weight loss because they've come to lose weight. But there are cases of people who've gained and gained successfully.
Nice. Okay. Okay, I've just had another one coming in. A performance-based question.
Cool.
Adam. What do you think? What about ideal weights? Like, how do you find this? So, like, I'm presuming this is maybe in a CrossFit context, given who it's come from.
Okay.
So, ideal weight for like CrossFit and for sport. Do it in a CrossFit context.
Okay. Difficult one to pinpoint. I would suggest that it's probably a lot down to personal feeling. So, for example, it could be catered to so many different reasons. Like if you're struggling with gymnastics volume, it could be a case of losing a little bit of weight could help. Or if it's a complexity of a gymnastics volume, weight could be the issue. It might be a good idea to lose a little bit of weight, possibly. Or if it's you're not strong enough and you want to gain a little bit of weight or gain a little bit more muscle and strength in order to move more weight. So it's very an open-ended question. What I would suggest is figure out where your baseline is. If performance is still lacking and there is a reason as to why, movement-wise, and you're noticing a trend, for example, general conditioning, and it's not really improving, and you think, right, well, if I was 3 or 4 kilos lighter, this would be a lot easier. So would my gymnastics. Then yeah, sure, that's maybe a viable reason to lose weight, but there isn't definitively an ideal weight. There's probably an ideal range, maybe, for a lot of people. But like humans come in all shapes and sizes, and to make it sport specific is quite difficult. Because as you'll see, there are a variety of different shapes and sizes of elite level CrossFit athletes who we watch on the documentaries all the time, and they're all different weights, and they all excel in different areas. So it's one of those questions where unless you are grossly underweight or obese, you wouldn't have me telling you to lose or gain weight. You would probably have me saying, be a bit more specific about what the area is, and then you can fixate on it then. So if you've nailed down, where's the question come from?
Hannah Chen.
Oh, well, we already know gymnastics is nailed down, right? So like if that is the case, then like figure out exactly what's holding you back, and then you can pinpoint it from there. There's probably a tipping point where you can gain a certain amount of weight there, where your gymnastics will begin to maybe suffer. Liam can maybe help you with that, actually, because I know that I've been helping Liam just gain a bit of poundage, and he's done that well. And you can maybe have a chat about seeing how his gymnastics has been affected, whether it has or not. Probably not.
So I can got a little bit of experience here in terms of my own like performance based around like my weight fluctuating. So last year, kind of probably about this time last year, I dropped to probably about as low a body weight as I'd ever been. So I was down, for me, that was down to around about 93, 94 kg. I'd just come off the back of like a competition window, and I'd plummeted loads of weight. And basically what I'd done is I hadn't actually got my training right. So while I was in a deficit and I was training loads and loads, like I was focusing on conditioning and gymnastics, and I got really, really lean. And then I got really, really frustrated about the fact that all my strength numbers had absolutely plummeted. And what it was that I just dropped I dropped too much load. And at that stage, I had to have been down to the best part of like 8% body fat, which for me didn't work. It did not work at all. So I had to go and like gain a little bit of weight so that I had a little, because like we know mass shifts mass. So I just had to find that borderline, that I was able to get my strength numbers back up. Now, like obviously I got to that point where my gymnastics probably weren't as good as they were when I was 93, 94 kilos, but it's like Adam said, it's like finding that borderline.
Just pure trading.
And it's finding that where that trade-off has to lie for you. And then what I would say in terms of putting that into like your like performance, like right now you're essentially in an off season, so you're better training gymnastics right now when you're a bit heavier. So you've got the massive shift lows, but you're also training your gymnastics like while you're heavier, knowing that when you come into competition phase of your training, that you can start to adjust your diet to suit and drop your calories down so that you drop a little bit of load so that your engine and your gymnastics get better, but you have to keep your strength work and your training high, so that it doesn't like drop off, to like so that you're still like shifting like that bit of fat so that you're in prime condition and gymnastic shape, but you're still holding on to that strength that you've ultimately gained in your off season. So yeah, hope that's a lot fairly helpful.
Just trade off. That's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just be smart about it. Liam, again, the first one I'm not going to mention, creatine. Talk us through creatine. Should we be taking it, and why should we be taking it?
Creatine is, creatine monohydrate is probably the most researched supplement out there. It essentially just allows for a little bit faster recovery. It's in essence the easiest way for me to explain it. So in essence, it doesn't make you stronger, contrary to what is suggested, but as a byproduct of taking it and having a faster recovery means you can move more with less rest time. Simple. You can so in essence, creatine, most research supplement. There is no difference in sex there as well. So males and females alike, you're totally fine. Just make sure the brand it's all good. About 5 grams a day is probably about a pinpoint for the majority of us. You can load that in as little time as you like. Generally about 300 grams needs to hit your body before it starts to return some form of gains. Doesn't mean that you can go and grab 300 grams and smash it in one go, but generally try and load it over a 2 to 4 week period is probably wise. And I would advise it, would advocate it if you were looking into a supplement of any form. Probably that and whey protein is probably your only go-to.
Awesome. Okay, that's all the questions, and then we've covered quite a lot in the FAQs there. I also don't want us to run on for too long, so I've got a quick fire finisher, Adam. The only rules here is 2 sentences, maybe 3 if you feel passionately about it. Okay. I've got 9 things written down here.
Of the 9, how many are going to wind me up?
Some are going to wind you up, but some of them are probably fairly legitimate that people will be interested about. Okay. So you're going to choose a number to start with. Okay. So any number between 1 and 9.
4.
The one that people wanted to hear. HMB.
Pure shite.
What is it? Why is it shite?
There is no positive research in viable studies to suggest it is of great benefit to you.
Brilliant. Class. 1 to 3 or 5 to 9?
Just give me 1 through 3 in the order they come.
Okay, number 1, the Game Changers movie.
Also pure shite. Not against the vegan diet. Massively over pro vegan.
Brilliant, love that. Number 2, keto.
Again, somewhat viable for certain people, just pushed by complete fannies.
Who's it viable for?
Certain demographics of nutritional needs, shall we say, or possibly females. Certain females might fall into that umbrella who require a higher fat intake for hormonal health, and then of all the other groups that you can probably imagine.
Sweet. Number 3, and someone genuinely asked about this. So, okay. intermittent fasting.
Yeah, I mean it's viable. If you want to reduce your eating window, it could be of some use, though not essential or the best way to lose weight.
Nice. Okay.
That picture.
5 to 9.
Yeah, just give me 5 through 9 as they come.
Okay. Number 5, apple cider vinegar.
It's probably good in your chips. That's it.
Why is it taken a massive thing for weight loss or fat loss?
I don't know. It's obviously been peddled by somebody who has an opinion. There you go.
Nice. Perfect. Number 6, Weight Watchers / Slimming World.
Good way to control your energy intake short term. Wouldn't be a legitimate medium to long term solution to problems. Doesn't educate you either.
Perfect. Number 7, V-Shred and Body Types.
Complete shite. That V-Shred guy is a complete wanker, isn't he? Like, really, he is up there. Yeah, not delving into that. Body types as well aren't indicative of an energy intake. So we're just shaped as we are.
They're personality types.
Yeah, you should definitely change your diet on your personality type. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Number 8, James Smith, PT.
He's a good guy. Yeah. Maybe a little bit too egotistical now, but generally his message is still correct.
Nice. Number 9, last one, BCAs.
It wasn't Joe Wicks.
No, not Joe Wicks. BCAs.
BCAs are good if you haven't consumed a meal for 36 hours and you want to preserve muscle mass.
Nice. Okay, let's make number 10. Let's go Joe
They're
Wicks.
good for nobody. What?
Joe Wicks, number 10, Joe Wicks.
He's a beautiful man. He does lovely PE classes for kids, which is amazing. But he's a sellout bastard.
There you go. Brilliant. That's them all, Adam. Well done. That went well. You didn't swear too much.
No, I did quite well. My one thing before I got on was I'm not going to influence these people's minds with a poor opinion of myself that I swear a lot.
Yeah, no. There you go. Well done. Well done.
Luke did so well. Dave's fallen asleep on the couch.
What, you fell asleep on the couch today?
No, Dave has. Look at him.
Where is it? I can't see him. Oh yeah, there he is. I see him. Oh, he's waving.
Oh yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions that they want to ask? I'm actually just going to bring you all back in now so that you can actually chat. And if anyone's got any other questions, feel free to. Here's one. Adam, should there be any alteration in nutrition for injury?
Yeah, maybe a slightly reduced calorie intake would be wise, depending on the exercise load that you do. If your exercise load hasn't changed, it shouldn't be reduced greatly. It might just need a slight alteration.
Sorry, Adam, I missed the last bit there.
It might just need slight reduction depending on the severity of the injury. But if you're still able to train and if there's still some form of intensity there, the reduction shouldn't need to be too much.
Nice.
A good person to chat to there, and I'm going to pick on you here, Kirsty, but it could be you. Like a lower limb injury could result in, a need to reduce calories, because the intensity may not be the same. Who knows?
Yeah, currently, if you didn't know, Kirsty has one leg. Soon to be two again, but still one for now. Another question: how do you count for your calories for a takeaway? Like where you can't scan a barcode and someone else has made it.
Same way you would if it was same way like you just said, if somebody else made it. Same way you would then is with the experience of logging, you get quite savvy, you get quite switched on about things that you should and shouldn't be putting through. For the most part, you could search as well. Like most things in MyFitnessPal are there nowadays. Like you could pretty much put in a fish supper and it'll be there. But generally, you're kind of just guesstimating. So as long as you've got some form of guesstimation and you're being honest with yourself, then you can't go wrong. But it's almost a guesstimation at that point.
Nice.
A lot of sorry, just to cut you off, but a lot of known chain places as well will have their calories on their websites. So like McDonald's, depending on where you go, if you search up calories for your given meal at Wagamama's or whatever, it'll be there, and you'll be absolutely shocked. But you'll still eat it.
Yeah, it's because it's tasty. How many calories will Mitch Adams need to intake to do 13 burpees a minute for 16 hours? If you haven't, so to just elaborate, if you haven't seen that, Mitch Adams is like a fairly famous UK CrossFitter. He's attempted to do 10,000 burpees on Sunday. He's given himself 24 hours, but he's hoping to do it in 16 hours, which means he has to hold 13 burpees a minute for the entirety of it.
It's actually quite a funny question, and James probably doesn't assume that I'm going to entertain it, but I am. The funny thing is that because Dave and I have both done Ironman, we understand the calorie output that is required for an endurance event of that scale, and it's horrific. Dave will be able to attest to this, but I'm sure when we finished our half, our calorie output was about 4,000. So if you essentially quadruple that, that would probably give you the amount that he's probably going to have to consume over the given time. The majority of it as well is probably going to be water-based. So, isotonic drinks, gels, energy gels, which means one, the things that come out of his backside the next day aren't going to be fun. And two, his mouth and throat are going to be horrendous. Don't envy him at all.
No, absolutely not.
Not to mention he's maybe going to have DOMs.
Just a little bit of DOMs, I think.
Yeah.
He'll be back training on Tuesday though.
Didn't he break his wrist as well, like a month ago, 2 months ago, before the Open?
Oh, he cut his wrist.
Oh yeah.
Jill, did you say when next 40 Doc is? So Jill, 40 Doc can start whenever. If you wanted, you could start 40 Doc tomorrow. You would just have to say the word and you could start tomorrow. Okay. Any other questions before I stop recording? No. Okay.
Before you stop recording, does that mean there's like rude questions to come after you've finished?
No rude questions, but just so I can stop that recording.
Oh.
Right, we're coming off. Thanks very much, Adam.
Thank you for appearing.
I hope that's been helpful. And if you do have anything, please feel free to pop it in the comments. I'll post this onto the members page and stuff. So feel free to have if you think of anything, pop a comment.
Yeah, for sure. I'll get to that. I'll answer that. So if you do have any post chat comments or whatever, feel free to chuck them in.
Yeah.
Or if you're scared about posting it there, just send it to either my email or my Facebook page.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks again, Adam.
No problem.